So, this is Unplayable Garbage Esports Top 10 New Cards for PD. Of course, what a new card is any card that has not been legal in Penny Dreadful ever before qualifies for this list. Of course, we have a top 10, and then each person will also have an honorable mention. Of course, I'm your average idiot, also known as CptAjani. We've got Datrobino.
Hello.
We've got Valuetown.
Good afternoon.
And BirdsandBees.
Good afternoon.
Alright, without further ado, let's get into our picks. Coming up at number 1, we have 3 Thran Portals and a Dam. So, the reason that I have Thran Portal so high, and I think the reason that the others also have it so high, is pretty much any deck that doesn't already have a Pain land now has access to an untapped duel, which obviously in Penny Dreadful they're very hard to come by. I definitely think that this will be, if not the most played non-basic, it'll definitely be in like the top 5. Basically, it just provides the most to the format because it's going to be in pretty much any aggressive mana base that's more than one color. Yeah, that's
Notably,
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
notably, historically, PD decks have had really major problems with multicolored combo decks and multicolored aggro decks because the mana base just didn't support it. And while this card is not as good in more control-y version decks, the aggro and combo decks, this is basically just a free untapped duel in every color. So for all your Dragon Storms, your red-green aggro type decks, anything that wants to play more than one color and is trying to kill the opponent relatively quickly, it's absolutely massive.
It's also worth noting that this land comes in as a basic land type, and this season every single check land is legal in PD, meaning that this also helps to enable any check.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that. Wait, this has basic land. This is better than I thought. I thought this was choose a color. This card's nuts.
Yeah, this is really big. I would recommend anyone try it at least in any deck that is like any amount aggressive.
Yeah, stuff
because
like
it's
shamans.
just
Yeah.
shamans, just like Burning Tree Emissary decks. This is really big pickup. I'm probably going to be playing it in Blue-White Allies this season.
It's also a pain land,
there's a
which
lot
is
of
relevant for like Villas and stuff and Reanimator, which is maximum greed, but I
Yeah.
love that. I love that stuff.
So, there's one card here that isn't Thran Portal. Valuetown?
Alright, so the reason why I didn't rank Thran Portal, and you're gonna find out I didn't rank Thran Portal anywhere, is because this card is... Yeah, well, I have, first of all, an important bias of me not just playing any sort of aggro or combo. So there's certainly that. It's just... It sees play because the mana base in this format is quite bad, and it's like, it's a slight upgrade for a lot of decks, and that's nice, but that's just, I don't personally find that very exciting. The reason why I put Dam so high is, first of all, Day of Judgment and Wrath of God are not legal.
Yes,
This
they
is
are.
the only 4 mana destroy all
No,
creatures.
they are
not legal. Oh,
The
well,
bot's
the
broken.
bot is just bugged. Bug is...
Both of those sure are
the
legal.
reason that this is big, the reason this is big in my opinion is that Dam is a board wipe you can play in your creature deck, and like that's kind of unfair because against other creature decks you either have a kill spell or you send them to the Shadow Realm with a random board wipe in your 25 creature deck.
Yeah.
They sure
Yeah,
did
it
just
probably
get wrapped by a mid-range deck yesterday.
Yeah.
It will probably see play
Nah.
in basically every Orzhov deck. It might even see play in some black decks and maybe even some white decks who for some reason don't like Wrath of God or Day of Judgment.
If we had Arkham's Astrolabe, if we had the Snowlands for Arkham's Astrolabe, this would see play in basically every white deck, but it
Well, I
doesn't
mean, we
seem
do
like
have
we
white
We have
snow
snow
lands,
covered.
so like
It does have
I don't know,
meaningful
you probably play
downside
this in
in the
mono white.
format, sadly, because of Shoal.
Yeah.
You can't just say, damn, all your creatures are gone in blue-white, because you might
Well,
get shoaled. and that stinks.
Although
But
the number of
to-
decks that
To explain,
are afraid of Wrath of God and also run Disrupting Shoal are incredibly low.
Yeah, but you also
Yeah.
have Doomblade in that matchup because it's pretty much just not. And Doomblade, while it's like not great, it's definitely better than Wrath of God. Anyway, does anyone have anything to add about Thran Portal or Valuetown on Dam? Because
I think it's just worth quickly explaining the shoal problem with this. So Wrath of God normally costs 4 mana, and our free counterspell is Disrupting Shoal, which allows you to exile a blue card from your hand of a particular mana value and counter that. Those decks don't run cards that have mana value 4, but they do run cards that have mana value 2, so they can counter Dam, but likely not Wrath of God.
yeah,
Probably. Yeah.
uh,
It's
we get further into
The
probably
other
not
thing
running
we're-
Dam in
on the
mono white
next
decks
slide.
with no way of casting.
Because Dam is definitely in
Yeah.
the top 3 for everyone here. So we'll get into Dam as we move down the list. Is everyone ready to move down to 2? We have.
Yep.
All right.
Alright.
At number 2, we
So,
have 3 Dams
damn,
and a
that's one.
Combat Thresher.
Yeah, you'd notice that out of
So there's not much
Yeah.
to
So
say.
notably, another thing about Dam that we didn't mention earlier, it now makes the meddling mages against blue-white really annoying because we have 3 different Wrath of Gods that they could be playing. It's like really hard to meddling mage the correct Wrath of God now because you can just split it 1/1/1.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing is that with both Wrath of God and Day of Judgment legal, a Gifts Ungiven pile could theoretically gifts for like 3 Wraths and force you to give it to them
Yeah.
just in control.
Yeah,
And that's very relevant, obviously.
we're going to be touching on Gifts Ungiven later because some people have it very highly.
only 2 of us have it on the list.
I probably should have it above
Uh,
at least my number 10 spot. That card is very good.
So
You could change it. Well, just really quick.
Just quickly change it.
I-
No. We're locked in. We're locked in.
So, Valuetown, Combat Thresher. I think everyone agrees here that this card's very good.
Yeah.
So you notice that for a couple of these, mine is slightly shifted upwards because I did not rate Thran Portal that highly. So Combat Thresher, it's okay. You're almost never casting it for 7, obviously, but you know
I
that
have
sometimes
already
happens.
put it for 7.
You're
It
not-
is utterly surprising.
We are seeing it as a 3-mana 1/1 with double strike and ETB draw a card, but if you blink it, it becomes a 3/3 double strike, and that kills people.
And that also
That's
draws
6
a card.
damage per swing.
And that also
That
draws
also
a card.
draws a card.
So the problem
That's
with all
6
of these prototypes is that like the vast majority of them require them to be cast. This one just doesn't. So you can flicker this with your Restoration Angels or your Astral Slides or whatever you want, and you're just going to have a 3/3 double striker that drew you a card.
Also, notably, like, even the base is, like, surprisingly good. It's really hard to go up on card advantage against a Combat Thresher because it's already drawn you a card.
Yeah. It's already
Like,
replaced
what are you
itself,
going to do?
and then it's
If
going
you
to
use a card, if you use a
And
card,
this
you're
is-
already down on card.
And this then becomes like the major advantage over cards like Blade Splicer, which there's like some natural similarity to, and it kind of gets run in similar decks because like you also resto Blade Splicer or whatever. But Blade Splicer doesn't draw you anything.
yeah.
True.
And the white black link decks have actually relatively recently been a pretty strong staple in the format.
And
Well,
that's in large part thanks due to the ever-present Parallax Wave. I personally don't think that card rotating really changes the deck that much. Obviously, we all
yeah,
have
Tide Hollow
Dam.
Scholar
Mostly
plus.
Yeah,
It's mostly Tide Hollow Scholar. The deck gets to play a bunch of Tide Hollow Scholar effects and then abuse it, and that's a really strong basis for a deck. And then you can put basically anything you want in it, and Combat Thresher might be the best of those cards.
yeah.
Also, Wasteland Strangler, and its combos
Yeah.
Tide Hollow Scholar pretty well.
The other thing is that
Okay.
the Parallax Wave decks last season kind of could sometimes struggle to assemble a clock. They'd just be like generating all of this value and taking control of the game, and they'd take time. This deck is a little bit faster because of the kind of clock that things like Combat Thresher present. So it's
Yeah.
the same deck, but also a little different. It gets a downgrade in one realm for an upgrade in another.
Yeah.
Notably, Combat Thresher into Restoration Angel is 10 power on turn 4. Well, I guess some of it's double striking, but it's 9 power, right? 9 power.
And we're not even talking about
Which
what you
is
played on
a
turn
lot.
2.
Yeah, you can actually kind of race people on this deck now, which it normally was basically just a control deck.
Yeah.
Now it has some game against
And notably,
decks that are...
not to take away from Thresher at 2, but there's a reason that all of us have Damn at either 1 or 2, and that's because it slots directly into that deck, and it gives it so much, what's the word, like, variety. Versatility, that's what I'm looking for. Because you don't want to play a Wrath in this type of deck, but it does the same thing that Parallax Wave did, in a way, where it allows you to just completely, obviously, wipe the board clean and get in with your Restoration Angels, your Threshers, your 3/2s with Devoid that I can't remember the name of, Tidehollow
Wasteland Strangler. Yeah.
And
notably, also, one last... another thing to mention... I know that Valuetown said that that Combat Thresher mostly wasn't going to be cast for 7, but in Orzhov, having a 7-drop that you can put in your deck and not feel bad about putting it in your deck is actually really nice, because the deck sometimes just goes, like, the games sometimes go to turn 15, and then when you draw your Combat Thresher, you just pay 7 mana.
Yeah, Orzhov is kind of the Jund deck of this format.
Yeah.
Back when Jund was playable.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Any other comments on either Dam or Combat Thresher?
Oh yeah, it's just a little thing. There are going to be people who are just going to be completely ambushed by Combat Thresher into Restoration Angel.
Oh, absolutely. That's
They're
going to
just
be
going to get
something
wrecked.
that a lot of aggro decks are going to have to respect.
I mean, like, you kind of can't respect that, right? Like, it's so
I mean, if you
hard
see
to
4
block.
mana open, you gotta assume something.
This is the
suspicious.
issue of being like on the other side of the table, because a lot of the time, like, you just kind of have to swing into it, but if you swing into it, you're screwed. So it's just like, well, what are you gonna do?
Yeah,
I mean,
you can
this is why
attack and lose or do
This
nothing.
is just like peak mid-range eats aggro, right? Because like you can either be the aggro deck that's like not attacking because you're respecting it, or you can be the aggro deck that doesn't have creatures because they
You
got
kind of need a
like,
burn
mid-range
spell
creatures.
backup.
Yeah.
But we kind of already said that burn spells against Combat Thresher automatically are negative card advantage, so...
Yeah. This Orzhov deck is going to definitely, if it picks up, which I think that it definitely should. I think it's definitely a contender for early best deck. I think aggro's going to have a very hard time existing if this becomes, I guess, tier is the word I'm looking for.
Is there anything else we were going to mention on this?
I don't believe so. I think we're good to go.
Okay.
All right.
Number 3.
Here,
Talk
Two
about
Ancient
Ancient
Ziggurat.
and the other 2 Threshers. So, Ancient Ziggurat is the other land that I think is very interesting for the format. Obviously, we were talking about how Thran Portal is pretty darn good in stuff like Gruul Aggro with the Avamaya Iconoclast and Burning Tree Emissaries. And the whole lot, like, you can put a Shaman's package in to make a bunch of mana off of your Burning Tree Emissaries. Overall, those decks have really struggled with mana over the last few seasons. And obviously, we talked about Thran Portal at number 1, but I think Ancient Ziggurat is definitely another very relevant card for these decks.
Oh, yeah, Ancient Ziggurat is going... We also have Rockrick, so Rockrick too really likes Ancient Ziggurat.
Absolutely.
A lot of people were already playing Rockrick and Meddling Mage the last time those 2 cards were legal.
And their mana base was terrible.
Yeah, that mana base was not good, and Ancient Ziggurat really helps your Mantis Rider Rockrick Meddling Mage deck.
There
Like,
is the...
I think
Rockrick
Ancient Ziggurat... like this really enables a lot of greedy creature piles. The reason I have it a little lower is just because, much like Pillar of the Perunes, which is also like huge for kind of the Rockerick deck, this doesn't make colorless mana when you don't meet the requirement. So
Yeah.
so while this is a really good card, it also is kind of only for niche decks that really kind of go hard in most of their cards sort of filling its requirements.
Yeah, for sure.
Not stable.
I have it very slightly lower. I think this card, again, PD mana kind of sucks, and the decks that a lot of decks that didn't have a playable mana base are going to find themselves having a real mana base now with Thran Portal plus Ancient Ziggurat. So it's not going to be for every deck, but this card certainly will make some decks a lot less mana
Terrible.
troubled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My main aversion to the Rockerick deck is how horrible the mana often is, but with now Thran Portal, Ancient Ziggurat, I've seen some people
Pillar of
playing.
Vigor.
Yeah, we have Pillar again. There's just so many gold lands that I think it should actually be able to cast spells on curve. And I know that's crazy
Now
to
the
think
only
about.
problem is card quality.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now the problem is what happens if you don't draw Rockerick, which is the other problem that deck always has.
No, it's fine.
But
You'll
we
just
also
cascade into it with BD. It's fine.
Ooh.
Dryad
Okay.
Militant we trust.
I think
we're pretty much good
talked
for
about it.
Ziggurat.
Yeah, like it's not that exciting. It's just it's a mana land that we haven't had before, which is always good for PD.
Yeah. Anything to touch on Thresher that we didn't talk about?
Nope.
Don't think so.
All right, moving on to number 4. Here's where we have...
We got some spicy ones.
There's one where we all have different picks.
Yeah.
So
I guess...
I am already old.
Yeah.
Again, Ziggurat, it's a mana land. I don't have anything to add about that.
All right.
Ajani,
Well,
Defabricate.
this card is
where
very
are we playing
lame.
this?
I really dislike this card because obviously it goes directly into Not, which is already probably the best deck in the format.
So,
but it makes the
people who
mirror suck, so maybe
somehow-
less people will play it. So it's huge.
People who somehow missed this deck, Checkbind Dreadnought uses Phyrexian Dreadnought, which is a 1 mana 12/12. When it enters, you have to sacrifice 12 power worth of creatures or it, but you can either phase it out in response or counter the trigger to keep it around, which makes for a very powerful mono blue tempo deck that sometimes just plays a 12/12 on turn 2.
It's a
And this
13,
card is
13.
an upgrade of that deck.
The Fabricate actually pisses me off so much
This
because
card
a
is
lot.
so
I play
pain.
Astro Drift to just dunk on.
Yeah.
I just cycle Astro Drift to dunk on the Dreadnought players, but now they have like a very good stifle to stop that.
Yeah,
And
wow,
notably,
this
counters
counters
your
both
Astral Drift as
Astral
well.
Drift.
It also counters my Astro.
Rude.
Yeah,
The counter artifact enchantment is definitely not irrelevant, and since I like playing decks built around art enchantments, so this is gonna be a pain.
targeted hate. There's not much more to say
Yeah,
about
it's
this
gonna
other than like it goes in Dreadnought. It's 4 because
Do you think
the
it
deck-
goes in anything other than Dreadnought? Like, these are some unique effects. There's.
You could
Do you think that we're ever going to see this?
I
other
think-
You could argue
I think
to
it
put
could.
it in a sideboard. You could throw this in
Yeah,
a
I
blue
think so.
sideboard and like be fine. Obviously,
It's
some
like-
blue decks have been playing a null, but that's more to stop Dreadnought than anything. So making it one more is kind of
The
bad.
difference between 1 and 2 is kind of big, yeah.
Are we going to counter some Delver triggers?
Hopefully not.
If this
Okay.
card stays around, it might get some wave players, I guess.
Yeah.
For the
Okay.
sideboard.
But I think that this is just
Valuetown.
a not card that's
What
here by
is-
virtue of being a not card.
Valuetown. What is the Elder Dragon War?
It's a solid 10 kilograms of copium, but I'll try to argue for it.
What does it do? I don't think most people have read this card.
Okay, so
I like this
it
card.
has the read ahead. Okay, it's a saga with the read ahead mechanic, which means you get to start on whatever chapter you want. So meaning it's kind of it's like a modal card, giving it some flexibility. Chapter 1, it Pyroclasms deals 2 to each creature and then 2 to each opponent. 2, you could like rummage away any cards in your hand and draw new ones. 3, you make a 4/4 dragon with flying. And it costs 4 mana. So this card, it's gonna be really dependent on how often Chapter 1 comes up, I feel. Because otherwise, it's a mediocre 4-drop. It
4 mana 4/4 flyers have not
Yeah.
historically needed that much to be playable. See Thunderbreak region, for example.
I would like to hop in with Valuetown on this one. This is another card that I've really been enjoying. I haven't played with it outside of Standard, but when Meat Hook Massacre got banned, this slotted in sort of in its place, and it really overperformed in Rakdos.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
I really like this card.
You probably want to swap it up for your number 10, huh?
There are a lot of cards that I would rather have than Maelstrom Pulse at 10, but we're gonna not worry about that until we get there. Overall, I really like this card, and yeah.
Notably, the bridge decks could just Cleansing Wildfire into Outer Dragon War, and that's going to be really annoying for some poor aggro players who just got their board wiped.
Yeah.
So,
I think next up.
how good?
Oh, what were you saying?
Like, how good? Where do you think this is going to see play other than Hops Valuetown? Is it just? Do you think it's just going in Jockle Hops, or?
Okay, I will. Okay, Honorbound might play it in his blue-red pile.
Okay.
But only Honorbound plays that deck like well. But he won the 500 with it.
Datro, it's red deck top end. You can put Wrath in your creature deck.
I mean, it's basically damn. I mean, I'm sure there's gonna be like this might even fit into just like dragons.
Oh, dragons totally
does.
plays this.
Oh yeah, Jace is gonna play this card.
Yeah, this does look like a Jace Arveduin card.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, the deal 2 damage to each opponent is not nothing. It is certainly
It's text. It certainly exists on the card.
This card just does so much. It has to be
This card
good.
would be really good if Power Conduit was in the format. Unfortunately, Spike took it from us.
Yeah.
It might have been also Canister. I'm going to give him some.
Okay, Birds and Bees.
Yeah.
I know you're excited for this
Give
card.
it to us.
Gifts ungiven. This card just does things. I mean, if you're not familiar with it, it's search your library for up to 4 cards with different names and reveal them. Target opponent chooses 2 of those cards, put the chosen card into your graveyard and the rest into your hand, then shuffle your library. So what this means is it's basically a tutor for 4 a lot of the time if you build your deck around it. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. The one that I've been messing with most recently is just kind of messing with control piles, because again, with like meddlers and stuff around, we just have so many kind of like redundant cards that you can gift ungiven and basically like guarantee tutoring certain things into your hand for like 4 mana, and then other stuff dumps in your grave, like Fuel's Cruise, whatever else. Or maybe you have like your Lockmere Serpents, Master of Death that you're happy for your opponent to send to grave, whatever.
I heard people messing with Unburial Rights with this card. Is that something we're gonna see?
Yeah, so that's the other thing that you can do with this card, is you can essentially be just like creating a combo and trying to win on the spot very quickly using it, because like Unburial Rights is like the same if it's put into your hand in your grave or in your graveyard in a lot of game states, that sort of thing. I'm not really sure what specific combos we're gonna see with this necessarily. I mean, obviously stuff involving the yard, probably stuff that's like coming out of like slightly more controlling blue shells, because obviously you have to be able to pay more mana. But yeah, I think this card is really good, and I'm excited to see what people brew with it.
Are we going to see some Frank Karsten tutor for 2 cards and put them in their place?
Yeah,
Yeah,
true.
we're
That's
reviving
always the
that
exciting line.
extended
That's
deck.
yeah. Another thing that's very relevant on this card is it says up to
Yeah.
4 cards. So if you really need 2 things in your graveyard, this is like just like
Yeah.
buried alive,
We're-
but +1 mana and instant speed.
We have the boring
We're gonna put
version.
it
We
in
aren't
next option.
failing to find. We're just searching for 2 cards. What a tragedy.
Okay.
Anything else?
I mean, it's ungiven. We don't really know what it's going to do, but
A
this card has a
lot.
lot of pedigree, and
We are-
it's likely to go in a lot of things.
Yep.
Yeah, that's sort of the thing, is that like we don't know exactly what it's gonna do yet, but I think the floor is just high enough that I can confidently say this is gonna be a good card this season.
Okay.
All right.
Number 5.
We've got
We have 2 cards we've seen before, and
2 new ones.
2 new cards.
Yep.
Johnny,
All right.
recruitment officer.
So
I'm
you know
surprised
how
you have
you know
this.
how Savannah Lions is a good card in PD, right? Well, what if it also
Solid.
drew cards? That's my entire pitch. This card's really good in exactly like White Weenie, and you can maybe play it in stuff like Boros, which is now
Humans.
possible because you have the
That's
lands
weird.
we've talked. You have the
Ziggurat,
mana,
Trample.
you have the Pain land and whatnot. Overall, this just gives a white deck which was severely lacking late game effects. Just a way to go that extra little bit deeper and get over the top. Yeah, I don't have much to say about this card. I think it's very good. We've had cards.
Yeah, I played against this earlier, and I was really impressed by, like, I ran the opponent out of cards, and then they just kept paying 4 mana and getting a creature and putting it on the battlefield, and
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like-
this card is just insanely strong at this is kind of doing what Thraben Inspector kind of almost did for that deck, except just like way better.
Yeah.
I think the best
Yeah, it's twice
example
the
is
power.
Usher of the Fallen.
Yeah.
It's the same type of thing where it's a Savannah Lions, which is already a fine stat line, and then sometimes you can pay mana to get an effect. This
Yeah.
effect is way better than Usher of the Fallens, though.
Oh,
Making
yeah.
a 1 does not even compare.
Yeah, the
And
other
Usher
thing
doesn't even have to die.
The other thing that's nice about this for White Weenie is it's another like highly playable 1-drop, which we already had like kind of a lot of. So you can literally have 30 cards in your deck, or like half your deck be 1-drops at this point, which the deck is happy about.
Yeah. If there was a
Yeah.
mono white season, it might not be this one, but this card is definitely going to be a major part of a lot of white decks for seasons to come.
Yeah, exactly. There are some problems with the deck right now, I will say, but this card is really good.
Yeah.
Valuetown, do you mind if we talk about Charbelcher on the next slide?
No. No, I don't. But do you have anything to say about the fabricated insurance Ziggurat before we move on, or?
I mean, we already talked about these.
Dreadnought.
Yeah.
That's about it.
I'm
All
gonna
right,
talk about your
number 6
Fabricate
then.
later, because I have like a very short mini rant when it gets to mine, because I'm ranking it lower than everyone else because I somehow hate it
game
more.
bad.
Game bad.
So
we're
Goblin Charbelcher.
all right. We're going down.
Well,
This
move on to the next
card-
slide.
All right.
So Goblin Charbelcher is looks really scary for PD. 2 of the last 3 seasons, the PD 500 was won by a Noobsall Spells deck,
That deck's unplayable.
and this card sure looks like it would slot into that deck, but that deck lost every way that it could function. So it doesn't look like there's a Noobsall Spells deck this season. Not that I've seen it. I'm one of the main people tinkering with that.
However,
What Charbelcher does do is it might just work by itself. We have Iron Crag feet. We have a whole bunch of rituals. There's a chance that a ritual version of Charbelcher can just win.
Well, notably, you only have 4 copies of
you have
Charbelcher,
8 Madcap
and we-
Experiment.
and
Can either Madcap Experiment or Spoils of the Vault for it, which is pretty high upside here.
I think
Yeah, but those are like very risky ways of finding it.
not really.
Kinda.
If you're winning
I mean,
the turn that you
Foils isn't that
if
bad.
you're winning the turn you madcap for it, like the odds that it's not going to be in the top 15 are low, right? Like if we
Yeah,
assume
it's
that you're
worse
getting
against.
attacked, right?
Mm-hmm.
You
So
also can do other things in that deck. That it's just Charbelcher.
yeah, also notably you could play any color combination with Carbo.
Yeah, you can play white for Orm's Chant. You can play black for Duresses and Dark Ritual.
Yeah, this is something that I really liked actually about the list that you showed, Datro. Like, I think this, like, because you have to like resolve this 4 mana thing, and like unlike your spies, in Oops, you don't have like a lot of redundancy with it. So I really like Orum's Chant as your way of getting around interaction other than Duress. But time will tell what kind of the right way to build this is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but honestly, this card is not this high for uses this season. It's this high because if and when Oops All Spells comes back, this card is going to be absolutely brutal in the sideboard because
Yeah,
like the answer to Oops All Spells has been Graveyard Hate.
when you
This
do
card
it.
completely ignores that and gives them a second axis to attack on, which the deck really doesn't need.
Yeah.
It's just
Like it's going to be obscene if the Oops All Spells deck from last season comes back, even missing a couple minor pieces. It's still going to be a very good
it is
deck.
gonna be
Um,
it is gonna be a pain to deal with in season 28.
Valuetown, you had
Yeah.
it a bit higher. Is there anything you want to add?
So really, between me and Datro put like Defabricate and Charbelcher next to each other. The reason why I just swapped them is because I feel like Charbelcher could spawn a new archetype. Well, Defabricate is like an upgrade in, granted, probably the best deck in the format, but it's like a slight upgrade over people who are over.
Yeah, preview of my rant. Game bad, card doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, there's nothing I can
But
say about Thresher that hasn't already been said.
I
It's
would
Why
say
is it so low, Johnny?
I
Why
would
why
like
do
to
you
say
not
something
respect
about
this?
Thresher that I notably said earlier. The reason why I didn't put Thran Portal and the reason why I'm not putting Fabricate that highly is that it's a slight upgrade in certain decks, and I noticeably Combat Thresher you could argue is more like not a slight upgrade, but like a medium
I think
upgrade,
it's archetype defining.
high to medium.
I think this card's definitely archetype defining. I had it lower
Yeah, before
because
you played
I'm
two.
not excited for it. Like it's not necessarily in terms of like how I rate them in terms of like how busted they are, because if it was how busted they are, then this would be a much different list. But I think in terms of just like the interesting decks that they foster, excluding Defabricate because that goes in not bad Miyangi. Excluding not, like I don't know, this card is very good, and obviously having it at 6 maybe doesn't do it as much justice. I by no means think this card is bad. This card is an uncommon from a standard set that I think is going to define the
It's going to
Orzhov
be around
archetype.
for a long time.
I think this card
It's gonna give
is
it a lot
just
more.
completely archetype defining, and it'll be interesting to see if Orzhov remains in that top spot that it's had for quite a while, even losing what I thought was the best card in the deck in Parallax Wave.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see.
Um,
Number 7?
Birds and Bees, do you want to talk about Recruitment Officer?
I mean, there's nothing really else to say. Like this is a member of my squad. I love my white weenies, and this is a good weenie.
All right, going into number 7.
Johnny, do you have anything to add on Goblin Charbelcher?
Card Wicked, you used the wrong art. Okay, I'm done.
Okay, it's Defiler of Vigor time. This card's completely obscene. There are only 2 5-mana 6/6s with Trample in the history of Magic. One of them is Elder Gargaroth, and this is the better one. It has trample, it makes your elves free, and every time you play an elf or any green permanent spell at all, it puts a counter on all of your creatures. You play this thing, and then you play a whole bunch of 1-drops, and suddenly you have like 50 power in play. And that is not hyperbole. This thing enables a bunch of turn 4 kills and completely laughs at Pyroclasm, even Anger of the Gods. This card's obscene. Seriously, try it.
Yeah, it's basically just an elves card, but it's a very good elves card.
I
Yeah,
think
so-
it maybe could even be outside of elves. Even I would look at this in uh I don't know if Varal's Knot is back, but I could even see this in Varal's Knot type things. Uh if you have Satyr Wayfinders, this card's pretty good with Satyr Wayfinder because it makes a card that's normally really bad late game into an actual threat. I think it could fit into a black-green shell, but mostly, yeah, play it with elves.
Yeah, so I've just got to say that like this is lower on my list, but after playing Datro on this once, I'd probably bump it up higher. Like this is bonkers. In a count, if you're like against a counterspell deck, it's still just kind of like another must counter lord that you can play in your elves deck, and it's not that huge. But if the deck doesn't have counterspells, this thing just runs away with the game.
Also,
Completely.
counter spells aren't even normally very good against elves because they just flood the board so fast.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, but in theory, like your counterspell. Well, yeah. I guess it kind of depends on what deck you're up against.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that this card just elves has this issue a lot of the time where it's like a turn 5 goldfish deck, but it doesn't play interaction. So it often is just too slow against the combo decks and even too slow to beat out Yockelhops' speed. But I think that Defiler of Vigor nudges it to turn 4, which is a massive upgrade.
See, my only issue with elves in particular, and it's sort of the reason I don't have this card higher, is because those elves decks really run out of gas very quickly. And this card just enables you to put your whole hand on the board, and the way I see that is you're going to be completely out of gas the turn this comes down, which is a good thing, because you've flooded the board. You have said the countdown is at 1, but you just get wrathed directly into the bin. And I don't think, basically,
Johnny,
it just...
notably,
This doesn't help Elves' issues at all.
notably, this actually does help a lot of the issues because, you're saying you flood, but this actually alleviates the flooding a lot
No,
because
I don't mean
it turns
flooding
all of
in
your.
terms of lands. I mean, you put your entire hand on the board, but if you get wrathed, then you just sort of don't have anything else.
So
This is also really good post-draft because you play this, you play the elf you just drew, and that's already 8 power. The next elf pumps it to 14 power.
I will say that there is a card, I think I honorable mentioned it, but there is a card that I'm kind of more interested in for elves, but we'll get to that.
I played both of these cards in elves already this season. I think Defiler of Vigor is so much better than that other card.
Yeah,
I think
probably.
the other one's still good.
Yeah, well,
but,
the other one has more archetypes it can be. We'll get to it. Valuetown,
value
you're up.
to gifts. Is there anything you wanted
Birds
to
and
add?
Bees already spoke about it. Just as Birds and Bees already said, you could play it in control. I'm not sure if we have Gift Storm. I'm not sure if Gift Storm is good this season.
I think Merpedy was trying it. He tried it against me earlier. It didn't really work, but I could see it working. Invoke Calamity is certainly is a hella drug.
Yeah. So yeah. Birds already spoke about this. There are 3 ramps you could grab. You could just run a mostly singleton deck with Gifts Ungiven as the linchpin. It's a solid card,
Card,
and it's
yeah.
kind of a fun card.
Card good.
Yep, and that's basically what there is to say about Ugin the Spirit Dragon. Like this is just like a top tier threat for like posts or some other ramp deck. Like it's really like in terms of raw power level, one of the best walkers we've seen in PD.
I think it is.
Whether it
like
will,
it's just the best one we've ever had.
Yeah, I
it just
think
is.
so.
Yeah, but whether it finds a home that's like actually tiered is unclear, and I might even rank this a little bit lower just because of that. But in terms of just like raw power on a card, like this is huge for PD.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, this card is really low on most of our lists because most of the applications that I've seen for Ugin have been more theoretical than anything. It like there's a lot of decks that it could slot into, but 8 is a large number.
It's pretty much
It's,
resigned to Cloud Post. You can play it you can play maybe a copy or two in hops just if you really want to go over the top. Like this card wins games, but it's not like there aren't other ways to for less mana. So it'll be interesting to see what it does.
It wants to be in a ramp deck more than it wants to be in a control deck.
Yeah.
And then like when you look at the ramp decks, it's like, well, there's Cloud Post, so it's like a really powerful card that we don't know what to do with yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a ridiculous card in Cloud Post.
There also just aren't many good ways to cheat it into play, really. Planeswalker is an awkward type, and like what I wanted to do is Tybalt's Trickery, but that's not legal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just gonna make mid-range decks lose even harder to Cloud Posts, and that will be very annoying. But
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. This card has a minor issue where in posts it beats the decks that posts already beats even harder.
Well, that's the
and
PD
doesn't
rule,
do
isn't
much
it?
against bad matchups.
Beat your good matchups
yeah,
first. Figure out your worst matchups later.
Isn't that just like the post creed?
Yeah. If you're playing posts, you are not here to beat combo. It's fine. You can play your 8 mana Planeswalker.
Yeah, I don't know. Notably, Ugin also does not beat Combat Thresher. Absolutely wrecked.
I mean, it
Bro,
does.
I didn't think about
Any upticker.
Well,
it doesn't beat Combat Thresher if it hasn't flipped.
Don't read the bolt part. Yep, no text.
Don't. Nope.
Just have Blink spell up. You're fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways, are we good to go here?
Number 8.
All right. We've got Eugene, 2 officers, and a Cindervines. There's not much to talk about for Ugin here. It is 8 mana walker that Cloud Post plays. Like we said, it doesn't have a home. I think it's always good until it's in your hand and you can't cast it.
I am going to expect to be beaten by a random Ugin out of a control deck that shouldn't be playing Ugin at least a couple times this season.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like at some point
there's
going to
be
deck,
some
like,
Dimir control.
Your bombs don't matter. Like you could play a better bomb, but like who cares?
Ugin Pog.
Like I'm expecting some blue-black player to smallpox me on 2, smallpox me on 3, and then cast an Ugin on like turn 16.
Pictures of me.
Yeah. This is a targeted comment.
No, it really isn't. This is just something that keeps happening.
Yeah.
Is people play absolutely garbage drops in control. I have seen far too many that stupid hexproof Sphinx that gives your spells can't be countered.
Yeah.
And
that card's busted.
Lake
it's like a 5/5 with flying. Targeted hate.
Yeah. Sphinx of the Final Word, is that it?
Yeah, something like that.
Yep. It is Sphinx of the Final Word. That's I'll play as a 1-of in standard.
Anyways, next up.
So Cindervines.
Why are we bullying 2/1s? I want to know why we're bullying the 2/1. Why is it 8th?
So we both agree that it's a really good card. We all agree that. I rank it this low because it's kind of a niche. It goes into like one archetype, a pretty good archetype, but it's like a
issue
tier.
With this type of Savannah Lions is like it's a Savannah Lions, and all the Savannah Lions are kind of just the same. This card will see a lot of play. How much of an upgrade is it?
It's
not a massive one.
Well, you're replacing a Squire is the thing. You're replacing a 1/2.
Shouldn't be replacing. you shouldn't have been playing the Squire in the first place. What it's actually probably replacing is a different 2/1.
What it's actually replacing is Cathar Commando, because this deck was unplayable last season.
That's true.
And
yeah,
and
it's
it's kind of replacing Cathar Commando from 2 seasons ago, and we can cope that like 2 power for 1 is fine in comparison to 3 power for 2, but like
it's. I don't think this card is bad, but it certainly isn't. It's going to see a ton of play.
It's the not
I
interesting
don't
tax
think-
type thing.
Yeah, like it isn't. It's going to see a lot of play. The difference between this and the next best card in mono white is not that big a deal, in my opinion.
Yeah.
All right.
Same reason why I didn't rank the Fabricate that highly.
Next up,
Cindervines.
yeah.
New card.
BirdsandBees.
yeah, Cindervines. So this is another card kind of like Ugin that doesn't necessarily have a home, but I actually like might put this higher. It's kind of like a close one because I think this card has some serious potential to just like do things in certain matchups. So it's an enchantment. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, Cindervine deals 1 damage to that player. You can pay 1 and sacrifice it to destroy target artifact or enchantment, and Cindervine deals 2 damage to that permanent's controller. So the first thing to keep in mind is that this is just some really nice main deckable Dreadnought hate.
Main
But
deckable?
mostly it's a sideboard card. And I don't know entirely what you play it in. Like maybe Ferris piles you can trigger things, or like Gruul aggro or something.
It's castable off Burning Tree Emissary.
It is castable off Burning Tree Emissary.
I think...
So like this
I will
this card
say
just like hates good decks out of like red green aggro, and so like I don't know. I think it has the potential.
I
to,
will
like, make
say
that deck.
I think this card is not good. I think that this is red-green pretending that they have good answers in their sideboard, despite the fact that this card is not actually... It doesn't answer most things.
Well, notably,
it's like
what this card
it normally doesn't beat Storm. It normally doesn't beat Dreadnought.
Well, the thing is, it's one of those cards that you can Glittering Wish for, and I think that that's pretty much the majority of the text here. It's like it's by far the best multicolored artifact enchantment hate card that you can tutor with it. Like before, you were playing the
Is it even?
Isn't that bad?
I like Nature's Chant.
Nature's Chant is disenchant, but it's green and white, and I don't think that you should play that card when this is legal. Unless obviously
cheaper. I like cheaper.
Yeah, but this card also has text. I think that it has a like surprising amount of text in the Storm matchup. Obviously that's like with an asterisk because I don't know what the Storm deck looks like. However, if you're attacking, this card really is just like a countdown. The countdown is sort of like at 10 or at 12 or 13. Where if you can chip in for any meaningful amount of damage, Cindervines becomes like an actual thorn in the side of most Storm decks.
So
yeah, this is the other thing is that it also has like meaningful text and control matchups. Like it's just a small thing that like if they do manage to cut you out and slog down the game, they still have this annoying thing on board.
And this explodes Ruined Halo.
Please play this. Please do not play this in decks that cannot deal damage to the opponent.
Yeah.
The damage mode is by far the best reason to play this card. If you're going to play this, please make sure that you have a solid chance of 5 damage killing them.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
Make sure that red-green Lava Axe is in fact a good card in your deck, because that's what we're hoping this card is.
Yeah.
Okay, also hilariously against Jocko Hobbs, you couldn't just cash it out.
It is shock.
You just throw it at a bridge. It doesn't actually kill the bridge, but you just kill their face of threat.
Notably, what this card does is like Ruined Halo.
Yoko Hobbs.
Yeah, true. It is targeted hate.
It does punk Bridge Halo. That is true.
But yeah, there's not much to talk about for Cindervines. It's a Gruul sideboard card that's like pretty solid. Anything else?
Might even like. I might play like 1 main and like 2 side. I don't know.
Yeah, this is what I mean. Is that like is also like I think you can justify because this deck is already kind of coping, just like main scamming like 1 or 2 of these.
I don't hate it. Triggers Rockerick. When this card comes with
Okay.
a 4/4, it's very good.
9. What is number
Number
9?
I've got...
So
We
a
have-
lot of the same cards. So let's just talk about why we didn't put them higher, I guess.
So
I mean, I
Cindervines
already
is
talked
a
about
Gruul sideboard card. That was pretty much my take. You play it in Rockerick, you play it in Shamans, you play it in whatever Gruul aggro deck with Burning Tree Emissary exists. It probably goes in the sideboard. I don't really see playing it main deck, but maybe if the season becomes super overloaded with Nod, I could see it. It's just a good card for decks that are fine.
Okay, Ugin, like, I already talked about why I didn't put it higher. Almost all of the homes are either posts, which didn't really need another major threat. It already has Tooth and Nail. Or, like, theoretical. Like, it's mostly theoretical. This card could have a home that would be very good. I wouldn't be surprised, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it does nothing all season and people are disappointed.
It is a big buff for non-green post decks, but non-green post decks sucks. So
Yeah, blue post gets a huge buff here.
To be fair, like, Blue Post is probably one of the most, like... It's, like, both the most and least wicked deck that you can play. So, like...
So, no.
People
The most
keep
wicked
playing.
thing is the post deck I'm going to be jamming, because I'm going to be casting
Is it-
Spoils of the Vault for Cloud Post.
Oh, that's baller.
This is where Eugene
black
goes for
post,
me.
baby.
Alright.
And then
I
Glimmer
will
Post gains
say-
life back. It's huge.
I will say that this has precedent. When Demonic Consultation was in this format, I believe that the second most named card was Cloud Post.
Baller.
Yeah, beautiful.
Next up, we
Birds
have
and Bees.
Colossal Dreadmaw
Birds
with
and
large
Bees.
amount of text.
Birds and Bees.
Yeah, I know.
Tell them why it's broken.
Yeah, so, like, I'd put Defiler of Vigor, like, 2 higher now, and, like, bump down Ugin and Cindervines, because, like, my entire rationale for this kind of sequence is Defiler seemed like Ugin and Cindervines to me, where it was, like, really cool card, has a lot of potential to do stuff, doesn't super have a home, but I'm convinced that this makes Elves into, like, much more of a real deck now, so this probably goes, like, 2 slots up.
Yeah, it's like, I already expressed my sort of dislike for this card. Obviously, it's incredibly powerful when unanswered. I just fear that it doesn't solve the I have run out of cards and I can no longer do anything problem that
It doesn't
Elves
solve that
have.
issue super much. Like, it's a better top deck, kind of, except for, like, when your mana was Dorks and you don't have the forests to cast it
Yeah.
after, like, a Wrath. But I do agree that, like, it just is so powerful for, like, upgrading your clock in the matchups that were, like, kind of on the edge. So, like, it doesn't help your bad matchups, but it does help matchups that were, like, 50-50 or a little worse before.
Yeah, sure.
Like, like what Datro just, like, scammed me with was, like, I was playing White Weenie, and White Weenie just, like, clowns on Elves with Brave the Elements and
Elves,
stuff.
because you have
But-
Brave the Elements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, but when
Heroic
Elves
did the
has a
same
squad like
thing.
this, Elves is in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got straight up stonewalled on turn 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is how that
Like
card
I had Brave, I just didn't have the ability to, like, generate the clock fast enough before I died.
Yeah, I was in this voice channel telling Valuetown that I needed to make sure my life total stayed above your total power because you definitely had Brave.
Yeah,
And
I
Normally,
had,
you aren't even allowed to play around that.
you actually needed to have your life total a little higher than that, because I think I had both Brave and Honor of the Pure.
Oh, you could have got
So-
scammed. You could've-
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
that's a
Had
very
you
good White
had you
Weenie
dumped too much of your life, you could have died there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, we've got 6/6s, we've got Ugins, we've got Cindervines. What's a 10?
Okay, let's go on to cool cards. Number 10. There are
Okay.
2 Maelstrom Pulses.
First,
A
Birds and Bees.
Birds and Bees rant.
Yo,
And,
rant.
no, let's talk about the other ones
No,
first. We'll let Birds and
yeah,
Bees
yeah.
do this.
We want to end this video on.
Johnny,
Alright.
what is Maelstrom Pulse? Why do
Did
we
I do
care?
the Maelstrom Pulse?
So,
because
I-
you're
okay.
not very enthused about it.
I'm gonna rant about Maelstrom Pulse and how I got scammed by Valuetown. Go ahead. Go.
Oh.
Valuetown, what is
All
it?
right, so this card is a black-green staple. Of course, the problem is black-green isn't looking that good this season. Recurring Nightmare is notably still legal, So, and that deck probably would like a Vindicate that also has text against other things. It's
Not
so
Vindicate. It's not one white black stone rain.
yeah, it's not Stone Rain. You can't scam people by just blowing up their lands.
Most of my Vindicates are to blow up lands. I want you to know this.
Yeah, you know. Yeah, it's sometimes it's play. But Maelstrom Pulse could wipe out. I'm not sure what decks just go wide with like the same
Like
with
tokens.
a bunch of tokens.
Yeah,
But
tokens
don't see
type
much.
deck.
Tokens is
And
down.
it's a lot better if we get Lingering Souls back,
Yeah.
but it's not legal right now.
We get to return to 2015 Modern.
So
Maelstrom Pulse on Lingering Souls violence, yeah.
okay, I'm gonna
Ajani.
jump in here. Originally, I didn't have Maelstrom Pulse on the list, and Valuetown was like, Maelstrom Pulse is broken, and put it at 3. And I was like, wait, you're right, this card's very good. And then, as you can see, it's not at number 3 anymore. It fell very, very far, very, very quickly.
Oh, and you should know I'm a clown, right? So you
Yeah.
shouldn't have followed.
Yeah, so, this probably shouldn't be on the list, mainly because it's super boring, but also because it's like, it sees play in either some recurring Nightmare deck that for some reason isn't playing white, or just like, I don't know, Garcia.deck. This card's like, it sure is sorcery speed, non-land permanent removal.
I think you
Should be a
underestimate the
lot
number
more
of
exciting.
people.
It's very
Coping.
Should be a
boring.
lot more exciting if we had 10 Pests in the format.
Yeah, if you could play this in
That would have
something
made
cool.
that mirror so degenerate.
Yeah.
If Feral's not got Maelstrom Pulse, and you could absolutely punk the people who just sacked their Dreadnought. But as is, I'm not too enthused about Maelstrom Pulse. I think it'll see some play, but like, it's Maelstrom Pulse. We know what it's gonna do.
All right.
Is it now the time for
No,
the?
we've got
Unlife.
Phyrexian Unlife first.
Phyrexian Unlife. I like this card.
You're coping.
We have Spoils of the Vault. That's a cool card you can pair with this. We have Ad Nauseam and Angel's Grace, which obviously there's combo applications here. I haven't really looked at it too much yet, but I'm sure that you can use these cards to make a pretty good combo deck, even without Monkey. Like, you need like an extra mana to kill, which is really bad, but you could probably do it.
We did lose 9 lives to rotation this season, so that was just
Solemnity,
unfortunate.
9 lives. Yeah, I don't really care about Sigil Prison that much. The other thing that this does, do not underestimate this in just white control things.
We are gaining slightly more than 10 life, boys. Let's go.
A lot of combo decks like have surprising difficulty killing this. If your Storm deck is playing Tendrils of Agony, this kind of just laughs at them. It also just against aggro, it normally blanks at least one combat, normally more.
The only the reason that I think you're clowning for this is because Runed Halo is in the format and it just does this but better.
Well, you play both. Obviously, you play this after Runed Halo. I think that Runed Halo is the reason you play that deck. But I think this card's like surprisingly decent at just keeping you alive. Like, even just its intended use case is not the worst thing ever. Obviously, you mostly are playing this in combo. It has synergy with stuff like Spoils the Vault and Ad Nauseam.
Alright, and now for the moment you've all been waiting for, the Birds and Bees Defabricate rant.
Alright.
This is
Strap
it. So, like,
in.
In this chat, I'm the person that plays Not, and I hate this card. It probably belongs up higher because it's a good card that you should be playing in the best deck. Like, you do need to be playing like 2 to 4 of these. But the thing that I hate about it is it's another copy of Trick Bind, right? So, like, we have our first thing to combo with Not, which is Slip Out the Back, which you run 4 of. and then you run like 3 or 4 trick binds. And this is just a straight slight upgrade to trick bind in most cases that makes the mirror garbage. Like, it turns it into just like fugitive wizard life race, because we have so many counters for each other's knots now, more coming in out of the board. And so it's just pain.
Game
This card is
bad.
pain. And it's not interesting or good. But I mean, it is good. You should play it. It just sucks. I hate it.
Yeah, WotC kind of just keeps printing these cards that combo with Knot. We get one like every single set. Slip out the back, Tend the Pests. There's just a pile of stuff that
We
combos
lost
with Knot.
March of Swirling Mist last season.
Yeah, March of Swirling
Yeah.
Mists. There was
Like
a blue-black one that we didn't actually play because we had too many other options.
There's a
in
billion
Midnight
things you
Hunt.
could play in this deck, and this sure is one of them that's
Like-
slightly better than the others right now.
Yep.
Like, this is one of those cards that is a perfectly acceptable card to print and is kind of cool in any format that doesn't have Phyrexian Dreadnought.
That also isn't
And-
it's just that isn't PD. That, like, it's not like
Yeah,
people are
it's just
sleeving this up
PD.
in Legacy. But
Yeah. I mean, Legacy has all these one-mana stifles.
Yeah,
It doesn't
yeah.
even mess up. It doesn't even
That's
do
just
anything.
stifle.
yeah, it's just
Yeah, it has actual.
Yeah, I know, but you were saying any format with Dreadnought in it.
Yeah, any format with Dreadnought and not good ways to blink it out. Sorry.
So PD.
The
So yeah,
So
that's
PD.
basically it. That's the whole rant. Like, I'm gonna be on this card when I play Dreadnought, which I'm taking a break from because last season and the season before that were very long combined. But it annoys me.
One
This card
thing
really annoys me.
that I will point out that hasn't been pointed out yet is if you like look at the robot thing in Defabricate, it has a very powerful stride. It is moving.
Yeah.
That isn't it getting murdered?
No. Look, you've got the one leg. I have my cursor over it. You can't look, but it looks like it is moving.
Yeah.
Moving
it's getting
apart.
Oh,
It's
It's
getting
moving
shot.
this way. It's moving that way. It's moving that
He's
way, and
posing
it's just a bunch of parts now.
well,
The
yeah.
other thing to point out, I guess, with this is that Not really does really like this, because it does kind of struggle. Like, blue generally, mono blue struggles with permanent removal, and so just like main decking more counters that stop problem permanents, like Ruined Halo or Combat Thresher or Tide Hollow Sculler, like, it's good. It's really good, and
Yeah.
you should play it. I just hate it.
Hopefully.
So basically, TLDR, the card is good. It's just boring.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right.
Game bad.
And now
Okay.
for the
Honorable
one honorable
mentions.
mention card. We have 3 cool cards, in my opinion, or 4 cool cards. No, screw
Okay.
screw Crucible.
Wow.
You're throwing shade at.
Screw Crucible Worlds. Card bad.
Wow. Okay, Johnny, what about your card? You know, the one that I just 5-0'd with.
Yeah.
What are you thinking about this card, Johnny?
So this
You played it as a 1-of.
So what this
Yeah.
card does is very, very varied. So its floor is just either a double ramp spell that comes with 2 bears, which is very good in stuff like Green Post, but it's an extra green pip, so it's kind of sus there. Where I really like this is stuff like Rofalos ramp and whatnot, which obviously we don't have Rofalos this season, but when that card comes back, this card is probably just the best 6-drop. You make 2 bears, you put 2 counters on your entire board. If you're curving squirrels into this, the game ends. And
Notably,
I think that this card's just
a thing to
ridiculous.
note about this card is that the bears do get the counters.
Yes.
The mode on this card is 6 mana sorcery,
Make 8
make
power.
2 4/4s.
Yeah,
It is extremely flexible.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
The Graveyard
think
Gate
that this
is
card
also
is-
surprisingly relevant in stuff like Cloud Post. Not in the way
Well,
that you
no, it's-
think, but just like
It's the life game.
But the
most of
the
right?
life gain part is surprisingly relevant.
You can gain like a lot of life and then make 2 bears, and that's minorly annoying for red deck to deal with.
Yeah.
I think this card is it's like Ugin, but to a lesser extent, where it's a really powerful card that is prohibited from seeing a lot of play because it's a 6-drop.
Yeah, it
Uh,
definitely.
You're going to need to ramp into it.
There's
Yeah.
a reason it's an honorable
It's
mention
basically
and not
Primeval.
ranked.
Basically
Yeah.
Primeval Titan at home.
Yeah.
I think that
I
what
never
you
thought about
want-
it like that. Yeah, this is prime time at home. Wait.
Yeah, this card is not bad.
Yeah.
I think this is a solid
Yeah,
card.
this card is decent. Let's go to the other Brothers War card.
I love Evangel of Synthesis so much. So it's blue-black for a creature Phyrexian Human Cleric. It's a 2/3. When it enters battlefield, you draw a card, then discard a card. As long as you've drawn 2 or more cards this turn, it gets +1/+0 and has mana. So baseline, this card's basically just a 2-mana 3/3 menace that loots when it enters. That's really good. I think this card could see play in blue-black tempo, like Grixis tempo. Anything that wants a 2-mana 3/3 menace, like anything that would want Fairy Vandal.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's worse with Get Probe out. But the other thing that this does is it slots very well into World Gorger Dragon because it's an infinite mana. It's an infinite. It's
Oh,
an
I never thought
outlet
about
for
that.
the World Gorger loot.
Yeah, yeah.
It's an outlet for the World Gorger loot because it lets you loot your entire deck, and it also is a like if your opponent just goes turn 1 Silent Gravestone, turn 2 Silent Gravestone, you can go turn 2 Evangel of Synthesis, turn 3 Master of Death, and just kill
It's
them.
Delver. We figured it out. It's
Like,
Delver. Okay.
We
We just play 2
we
and
get
3
to
mana
put
Delvers.
yeah, you get to put blue-black Delver in a combo deck, and that's really cool to me.
Yeah.
I think this card is
Isn't Fugitive Wizard.
Yeah.
yeah, I think this card's great.
It's actually
I
Phyrexian
think
Cleric.
I think that any deck that is playing Master of Death in it should strongly consider this card. Basically,
Yeah, it's basically just draw the card if you're playing Master of Death.
Yeah, it's one of these
Just-
things that I'm gonna be like tinkering with in all of the Mind Crank stuff. Although that deck is really slot competitive.
I mean, it's a lot worse in Mind Crank specifically because there's a different blue-black 2-drop creature that you need a little more.
Yes, just a
Yeah,
little.
it is the combo.
Alright,
Uh,
next up.
I
Uh,
think
also,
this card's
weirdly,
huge.
this kind of competes with like Tainted Indulgence for slots. But oh well.
Yeah.
So
Next up we have 4-mana Bear with no other text.
so
Your
I
mana bear
was
no other
given
decks.
I had to choose one honorable mention. So there were a lot of cards that I think deserve mentions, like Sarah Ascendant, Nimble Obstructionist, and whatnot. But I put Huntmaster of the Fells because I picked the one that I like the most. This card is very much 2014 Magic the Gathering. It's so the front half is just such an engine. It's like base is like it makes 2/2/2s and gains 2 life ETBs. It does so much, and then you can just do nothing, and then it flips. You shock, it becomes a 4/4. You shock, kill a thing, and you shoot their face for 2. And then it flips back when you play 2 spells, and you get another 2/3 gain 2. It just keeps on going. It's just such
Okay,
a
so that's a lot of stuff it does. Where does this see play?
Yeah, that's kind of the problem. So it's
Is there
like
a Johnny
four.
deck? We have Maelstrom Pulse and Huntmaster.
We have a very much a 2012 jump back. You could try Naya Rockrick could try to play it. It does compete with Bloodbraid Elf.
Yeah.
But you could play both. It's just a fun, cool, fun card.
I do like playing one of this in Rockerick. Like 4 Bloodbraids and this is not that bad.
I also have a very strange deck brewed in my mind that is really bad against combo, so I don't think it should.
You
should
don't want to
play it,
share it with
but
the world.
I'm kind of down to like
It's
Paradise
it's
into
basically Zix's pile. It's Naya Astral Slide.
Oh no.
Oh god.
Okay, well, moving on
Okay.
before we get into too much copium. We're going into probably the most
BirdsandBees.
copium card that has come in. Crucible of Worlds.
Yeah. So
Birds
this
and
card
bees,
is
what
like
are we doing?
bad in PD, but but I really like it. So
Hey,
Crucible of
you
Worlds.
said bad in PD as if it wasn't bad in everything else as
Okay,
well.
but like it's kind of especially bad in PD because we don't have good lands. But no, what's like fun about Crucible of Worlds is we can just build like this is a fun card for just like janky combo things. We can do I don't know, you can just like cope and play it in Pox, or just like try and Ghost Quarter lock people with Leonin Arbiter or other just horrible things.
Yeah.
You know, if you wanted a 3-mana card that a 3-mana mediocre card that's new in PD this season that generates value, there is a black card that is you know,
Wait, which card are you talking about?
Phyrexian Arena.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
That's also like okay, but the thing is, like, Phyrexian Arena is kind of like boring compared to Crucible of Worlds, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, Crucible of Worlds like lets you build some kinda unique stuff. It's definitely really bad, but like I think like Crucible of Worlds is kind of like my pick for new terrible jank enabler.
All right.
Right. I want it to be known, Crucible of Worlds. I'm going to make fun of it constantly, and then someone is going to Crucible Ghost Quarter me while I'm playing Oops or Charbelcher, and I'm going to be very unhappy.
Yeah. That's gonna be tough.
Good time.
All right. That has been UGE's top 10 cards for PD. Some closing thoughts. There are obviously some cards that we have left off of the list today. Stuff like Sarah Ascendant, Phyrexian Arena, and basically just a bunch of other cards that don't make the cut for top 10 and that I feel I couldn't
We don't like enough for the...
I feel I couldn't do justice to talking about them at the honorable mention. Anyways, that is all for UGE's top 10. I'm CptAjani, the Datrobino, Valuetown, Birds and Bees. Thank you for joining me. And
Bye.
thanks for watching.